CT scans of Pompeii victims reveal some had monstrous deaths. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, it did not just destroy a city, it froze an entire civilization in time. Pompeii was buried under layers of volcanic ash, pumice, and gas so rapidly that daily life was interrupted in seconds, leaving behind homes, streets, and even human bodies exactly as they were in their final moments. For centuries, it was seen as an archaeological treasure, but modern technology has changed everything about how we understand it. Today, CT scans and advanced imaging techniques are revealing something far more disturbing and far more human than ever expected. These were not peaceful deaths preserved in stone. They were sudden, violent, and in many cases far more intense than early historians imagined. Pompeii. Pompeii was once a thriving Roman city filled with markets, bathhouses, temples, and busy streets, where thousands of people lived ordinary lives. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, the first phase of destruction came in the form of falling pumice stones that collapsed roofs and filled streets. But what truly turned the city into a preserved time capsule was the pyroclastic surge that followed a superheated cloud of gas and volcanic material moving faster than any human could possibly escape. What CT scans have revealed from the plaster casts of victims is not just skeletons frozen in place, but internal trauma that shows just how extreme the final moments truly were. In some cases, bodies show signs of extreme muscle contraction, indicating that heat was so intense that it caused near-instant physical reaction before death occurred. It is not the quiet preservation many imagine, but evidence of sudden, overwhelming force. One of the most shocking discoveries comes from how bodies were preserved. When archaeologists first uncovered them, they poured plaster into hollow spaces left by decomposed bodies, creating detailed casts of the victims. At the time, these casts were seen mainly as visual reconstructions. But now, CT scans allow scientists to look inside without damaging them. What they found changed everything. Bone fractures, compressed skulls, and internal positioning suggest that many victims were not simply suffocated, but subjected to violent thermal shock and collapsing structures all at once. In some cases, the body posture frozen in ash shows attempts to protect the head or shield loved ones, suggesting awareness of danger but almost no time to react. Modern imaging has also revealed something unexpected about the brain and soft tissues. In certain casts, there are void patterns that suggest rapid vaporization of soft tissue caused by extreme heat. This challenges earlier assumptions that people died mainly from ash inhalation. Instead, evidence now suggests that for many victims, the temperature rose so quickly that bodily fluids began to boil and expand internally, leading to catastrophic failure of tissue structures. It is a level of heat exposure that is difficult to imagine in a natural environment, and yet it happened within moments. Mount Vesuvius eruption. The eruption itself unfolded in multiple phases, each more destructive than the last. The initial explosion sent a column of ash and rock high into the atmosphere, darkening the sky and raining debris over the city. But it was the final pyroclastic flows that sealed Pompeii's fate. These fast-moving avalanches of superheated gas, ash, and volcanic fragments reached temperatures that could exceed 500 degrees Celsius. CT scans of victims found in different areas of the city show variations in trauma depending on where they were located during these final moments. Some appear to have died instantly in open spaces, while others show signs of being trapped indoors as structures collapsed around them. One of the more haunting findings involves the positioning of bodies inside homes and shelters. In several cases, Individuals were found together in groups, suggesting families or communities attempting to survive the eruption together. CT scans show that in some of these clusters, there is evidence of protective positioning, where adults shielded children or leaned over others in final attempts to protect them. These positions were preserved exactly as they were, locked in volcanic ash that hardened like concrete. What makes this even more striking is that in many cases, there is no sign of struggle over time, just a sudden end frozen at a single moment. Another revelation comes from analysis of skull fractures and spinal compression. Some victims show injuries consistent with sudden collapse of building materials, while others show patterns that suggest they were struck by airborne debris moving at high speed during the eruption. This means that death was not caused by a single factor, but a combination of extreme heat, collapsing infrastructure, and violent atmospheric pressure changes. CT scans allow researchers to distinguish between these causes in ways that were not possible before, giving a far more detailed picture of what actually happened in those final minutes. What makes these findings even more difficult to process is the realization that many victims likely had almost no warning. The eruption began with ash and pumice falling like a storm, which may have seemed survivable at first. But within hours, the situation escalated beyond anything they could understand. By the time the pyroclastic surges reached Pompeii, escape was nearly impossible. CT imaging shows no long-duration survival patterns, meaning most deaths occurred within moments of the final wave reaching the city. Herculaneum. Nearby Herculaneum offers an even more detailed comparison. Unlike Pompeii, many victims there were found near the shoreline, suggesting they attempted to escape by sea. CT scans of remains from Herculaneum show similar patterns of thermal shock and internal trauma, but in some cases, bodies are preserved with even more detail due to deeper burial under volcanic material. This has helped scientists understand that the eruption affected surrounding cities in different ways depending on geography, wind direction, and timing of pyroclastic flows. One of the most debated aspects of the new findings is whether victims experienced pain in their final moments, or whether death was too rapid for conscious suffering. Some evidence suggests near-instant neurological shutdown due to extreme heat exposure, which would indicate extremely brief awareness. However, other findings, such as defensive positioning and clustered groups, suggest at least some level of awareness during the initial phases of the eruption. CT scans cannot fully answer this question, but they provide physical clues that continue to challenge earlier assumptions. What is especially striking is how technology has transformed the study of Pompeii. For centuries, the site was viewed mainly through archaeology and preserved casts. Now, non-invasive scanning methods allow scientists to virtually peel back layers of history without damaging fragile remains. Every scan adds another piece to the puzzle, revealing details about bone structure, injury patterns, and even subtle differences in how individuals were positioned at the moment of death. It has turned Pompeii from a static archaeological site into a dynamic scientific case study, still revealing new information nearly 2,000 years later. The emotional impact of these discoveries is difficult to ignore. These were not abstract historical figures. They were families, workers, children, and elders going about their lives on what turned out to be an ordinary day before disaster struck. CT scans do not just show bones and ash, they show evidence of human behavior under extreme conditions. Protective gestures, group clustering, and sudden collapse patterns all point to a reality that is far more personal and intense than early interpretations suggested. In the end, what CT scans of Pompeii victims reveal is not just how they died, but how quickly everything changed. A functioning city filled with life became a frozen snapshot of catastrophe in a matter of hours. The science continues to evolve, and each new scan adds more detail to a story that has already been studied for centuries. But the most powerful realization remains the same. Pompeii is not just a historical site. It is a moment in time preserved with terrifying precision, reminding us how fragile civilization can be when nature decides to change the rules without warning.